Hi, my name is Sai, and you're watching my documentary on the Persian invasion. The theme for this year of NHD is conflict and compromise. This relates to the topic because the Greek city-states, Athens and Sparta, overcame their differences by joining together to take down the Persians. Before the Persian invasions took place, Athens and Sparta were rival polises. They were rivals because they both had different ways on managing a civilization, one being a militaristic state, the other being a democracy. Even though all the Greek city-states believed in the same gods and goddesses, each city-state had their own primary god. Sparta being Artemis, the god of hunting, and Athens being Athena, the god of wisdom and strategy. Their belief in different gods and goddesses acted as another reason why they had a huge rivalry. One infamous event that took place during ancient Greece were the Olympics. The Olympics was an event where members from different city-states would come together to participate in sports in honor of their own city-state. This is where Athens and Sparta were able to rival each other in sports such as the long jump and the marathon. It is important to note that neither Athens or Sparta attacked each other during this time. During this time of no conflict, a person by the name of Darius in Persia had a plan which would change the entire way of life for the people of Greece. Darius was the king of Persia who benefited his empire by making satraps to govern it and producing the royal road for better communication. However, he wanted to expand the borders for his empire, and his plan was to invade Europe. As Darius started invading Europe, he started capturing city-states one by one. One city-state he captured that put up a huge fight was Scythia. As the Persians kept moving into Europe, the Ionians, a city-state captured by the Persians, planned on revolting. When the revolution began, Darius soon grew angry and planned on killing each person part of the revolution and burning each house to the ground. Luckily, Athens came to help along with the Arretians and helped rescue any survivors and fight off any remaining Persians. Athens helped the Ionians because they were alarmed by Darius' movements into Europe. After the revolution, Darius wanted revenge against Athens and said the following according to Herodotus: "Grant, O God, that I may punish the Athens." Years later, Darius created a huge fleet. His army consisted of people on both land and sea. Darius and his men crossed into Greece through a handmade bridge and prepared for invasion. This was the beginning of the first Persian invasion in 479 BC. As battles took place on both land and sea, the men of Athens' army started depleting. Even though Athens remained dominant on battles on the sea, they were outmatched on land through the massive numbers of Persians. Athens soon realized they could not win this battle by themselves. They turned to their rivals, known as Sparta, and asked them for help. As much as Athens begged for help, Sparta refused to help them because they were in the middle of their moon festival in honor of their gods. Many months had passed, and Athens continued to lose against the Persians, and much of Greece had been conquered by now. As Athens stood on their last leg, they prepared for the final major battle at Marathon. As Athens stood amongst the massive army of the Persians, the Spartans came at the last moment to assist Athens with 2,000 men. Together they beat the Persians, and after a few smaller battles, Persia had to retreat. This was the end to the first Persian invasion. After the victory at Marathon, a man by the name of Philippides ran 26 miles to tell Greece the invasion was over. However, he soon died from exhaustion, but he left behind a legacy and created a new sport known as the marathon. The soldiers of Greece who died during the Persian invasions were cremated, and their ashes were placed at the Mountain of Sorrows. Darius never got to come back to Greece and finish his conquest, but soon one of his relatives would take his place. In 465 BC, Xerxes became the new ruler of the Persian Empire. He made one of the largest armies in the world. Any place in the empire where there was slight rebellion, the entire city would be killed. However, Xerxes wanted more and said the following according to Herodotus: I will not rest until I have taken Athens and burnt it to the ground. Xerxes walked into Greece with his entire army. He had 500,000 more men than Darius's invasion. Along with his entire army, he brought his elite army, which was known as the 1,000 Immortals. Xerxes quickly attacked Greece, bringing many city-states to the ground. Athens and Sparta were not ready because the attack had been so sudden. Eventually, Athens and Sparta had an army to take on the Persian army. Much of Athens' fleet advanced into Artemis, which was a captured Greek city-state, in order to hold off the Persian navy, while the Spartans went on land to fight them face to face. The Spartan soldiers were known as hoplites, and they used a feigned lax formation in order to hold off the Persians. Leonidas was the current commander of the Spartan army, and with his excellent military leadership, they were able to win many battles, but this would not be enough. Here's a clip of Leonidas from the movie 300.
People with slavery and death. Oh, I've chosen my words carefully, Persian. Perhaps you should have done the same. This is blasphemy. This is madness. Madness. This is Sparta!
After many months of fighting, the Persians needed a new strategy. Around this time, a Greek trader told Xerxes about a pass through Thermopylae that would allow him to advance into Greece when Athens was at its weakest. Xerxes marched into the pass of Thermopylae with his 1,000 immortals to assure victory. But Athens and Sparta knew about his plan. Athens was running low on men and needed to retreat, so Leonidas made a sacrifice to give Greece a fighting chance. Leonidas stayed behind with 300 other Spartans to take on the entire Persian army. One by one, the immortals started dropping. Even though they were outmatched, the Spartans still had far better military tactics and far better training. The cycle of Spartans beating the Persians lasted for days. This made Xerxes furious. He finally unleashed 1/3 of the entire army to fight the Spartans. Due to the sheer number of Persians, the Spartans could not beat them. However, the Athens forces had created an entire new fleet at this time. After a few smaller battles, the Persians did not have enough men to fight on, so Xerxes was forced to retreat with his men. This was the end of the Persian invasions. Two city-states came together and put their differences aside to surpass an overwhelming force. Even though it may have required sacrifice and the greatest of losses, it left behind a legacy and tells the tale of one of the greatest events in human history.